Alright, so this is going to be just a vocal chain tutorial. Nothing crazy, nothing super advanced, just simple vocal chain tutorial. Now, this is mainly used for podcasts, not any vocal chain, but it can be used for just about anything, as long as it's a clean signal. So, first things first, what you want to do before anything is you want to check your mic gain. So you want to make sure you give yourself a decent amount of headroom, especially if you're doing something like a podcast where the dynamic range of your vocal will change wildly. That's the first thing you want to get done, is just to make sure you have no clipping and that when people get really loud, you won't get that really nasty digital clipping from, a bus or something like that. The next thing would be to obviously gate your signal so background noise is reduced. You can hear a little bit of my fan in the background, but it's not awful. As long as your noise floor isn't too bad, most people won't notice. The next would be EQ. Now, this is probably the most complex part of any vocal chain, just simply because it changes from voice to voice. So you can't just use the same EQ chain for every voice, because everyone's voice is different. What you have to use is, something a lot of people like to... A lot of people? Not to everyone. The harmonic series. You want to know about the harmonic series. Why do you want to know about the harmonic series? Well, everything is based off of it. Every sound you hear is based off the harmonic series. Now, I could explain in depth what the harmonic series is, but people have done it better than me. Andrew Huang, for example. I can probably just leave a link if you want to learn more about that. But right now, all we need to know is that the harmonic series consists of a fundamental, a bunch of overtones, right? So the fundamental is the lowest note that your voice will have. So I have a fairly low voice, so I have to leave a lot of the low end. Some people's voices you can cut all the way up to, around 150 to 100. I have to leave, for my voice, because it's lower, around 75 hertz is where I generally do my low cutoff, just to get rid of the low rumble, but not get rid of, the low bass part of my voice, because then it sounds off. So if I go to say 150, just a bit high, but it doesn't sound right. Go back to 75, it sounds fine. It cleans it up, gets rid of the muddiness, but doesn't destroy the tone of my voice. After you have the fundamental and you figure out where you can cut your lows, you can go to things like clarity, air, and, harshness or sibilance. I generally have to increase the clarity of my voice a bit because lower voices generally need that. So a little bit of boosting here in the 1.2 kilohertz range for my voice increases the clarity. Now, for people who have higher voices, they probably won't need clarity because their voice is the clarity. Unless they're like mumbling or something, but that's a whole different issue. So you want to make sure you don't boost this too much or it starts to become real harsh and you don't want that. So just do it a little bit if your voice needs clarity. If you can understand your voice just fine and there's not really any muddiness or whatever, don't worry about it. Just move on to the next thing. Anyway, sibilance, or, the S's, those things, plosives, other things like that, will be around 5 to 3,000, I want to say. Yeah, 5 to 3,000. And it's generally really harsh noise that isn't pleasant to listen to. You just want to kind of cut a little bit of it out. Don't cut too much. It's better to have a dynamic EQ, but I just didn't want to do that. You don't have to do that. Just a little cut here, just to tone it down a little bit, nothing much. And then a little bit of the high end for me, I have to boost because obviously lower voice, less high end information. I boost that a little bit and then add a little bit of air as well. Because once I add this nonlinear filter, it's just mainly for texture is the best way I can describe it. It basically gives it that more analog sound. That's why I have the warm setting. Because whenever you hear anyone say, oh, the sound sounds warm, it's just distortion. This is more like the gain staging or reducing your dynamic range to increase volume. When you are producing a vocal, you want to make sure that the volume is fairly consistent, but also has enough room to breathe. A lot of people tend to over compress or just completely kill the dynamic range thinking it sounds better because it's louder. But the thing is you'll generally lose a little bit, or actually quite a bit, depending on how much you compress, of your high frequency information, because it just struggles with that whenever it's, you know, compressing or distorting or whatever. It's gonna mess with it. So to get a real clear sound, you want to make sure that, you know, you distort a little bit just to increase high frequencies, but also you want to attenuate your peaks to where they aren't fucking super loud. So an easy way to do that is just a little bit of distortion with a clipper. So right here, I just have a clipper and distortion to act as, you know, my gain attenuation. And this is just to, you know, turn it up even further. The distortion also adds just a little bit more character to your voice too, which can help, especially if you have a lower voice such as mine, which needs higher frequency information. Other than that, that's generally the gist of it. You just need to make sure you're primarily focusing on EQ more than anything. That's, like I said, the hardest part, because it's the most variable, or the most it depends part of the chain. Because obviously voices have different frequency information depending on how their voice sounds. High, low, nasally, not nasally. Do they project a lot? Do they have a soft-spoken voice? Are they using fry a lot? It all changes the frequency response, so you have to adapt to that. I'd say that's audio production 101. Adapt. That's pretty much everything. Oh, that's right. This down here is just a little bit of gain attenuation. So like if I ever make a really loud noise or I yell really loud, this will turn down everything. So if I were to blow into the mic here, this will get a little loud. Sorry. As you can see, that turns down this a bit. Actually, I can turn that up a little bit. As you can see, I can't yell, so I have to just blow in the mic. Now, generally, you only want that to happen if someone bumps the mic or something. It's just to reduce the strain on someone's ears for accidental volume spikes. So, like I said, someone bumping into a mic, someone yelling out of nowhere that you weren't expecting, something like that. This will turn everything down just to make sure you don't blow people's eardrums out, which most podcasters seem to not do very well. Don't know if they don't have a sound engineer or if they're all just doing it themselves. If they are, hey, do this so it's better for people's ears, please. I'm fucking rambling now. This is kind of, you know, an experiment on this channel, so yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.